Ladies and gentlemen, how are we all doing? Welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast. Welcome to what would have... It's a very different episode of the podcast in terms of the emotion of the podcast, because we're coming into this very, very different to how I would have been if we hadn't had that injury time with that penalty save from Jack Stephens. Please do give your thoughts on the game in the chat as well. I'll be reading out all of your comments as per usual. I want to be hearing from you as always. I'll be talking about it. We'll be discussing your points. If you didn't watch the game as well, do leave your questions in the chat, and as always, I'll read them out and try and answer them as best as I possibly can. But Jack Stephens is a saviour again today. But we'll come on to that because we've got a point to talk about, because we have come away with this game with a point. It is another 0-0 draw, but it doesn't feel like a 0-0 draw in the sense that it's a 0-0 draw where we come away from this thinking, it's difficult to talk about it without talking about Jack Stephens' penalty save at the end first, because without that, I'd have come on here quite disappointed and probably thinking potentially about how it was a bit of a chance missed and how maybe there was a chance there where we could have gone on and won that game, and it's very, very disappointing. If that penalty goes into the back of the net in injury time, then we're coming away from this absolutely gutted, and we're all a little bit, very, very down and upset about it, because we probably deserve to get more out of the game than we did just a point, let alone nothing. So it's really, really difficult to talk about the game without talking about Jack Stephens, so we'll come to that straight away. Please do give your thoughts, as always, in the chat about it, because it's very, very interesting. I'm going to be intrigued to see what you people think, around that sort of thing. I'd be intrigued to see what you think of the penalty decision at the end. It was Gorin that made the challenge that did lead into the penalty being given, and the referee pointing to the spot. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think we can all sort of sit back, from this game and be like, some results didn't go our way today, and that is a little bit of an issue. Some teams did win that we needed to potentially drop points, and the form itself now isn't looking great, and we've got a huge game on Tuesday. I know Portsmouth obviously got absolutely smashed by Northampton, which is a really good result for us. But in terms of where we go from here, and obviously the game's coming up, today would have been an incredible win if we'd got one, and it would have given us so much confidence and so much momentum going into Tuesday's huge game, obviously Derby Day against Swindon Town. But the title says it is a last-minute penalty save. It's a really, really important save. It's a great save as well. It was, it's not a bad penalty. It's a really, really good save. Tom Merrill says, super save from Stephens, mate. It was an absolutely fantastic save from Jack Stephens. It's not just a penalty. All penalties, it's weird, isn't it? When a penalty goes, when a penalty is taken and it's not saved the goalkeeper, you never really blame the goalkeeper. You never really say about a goalkeeper, should be saving a penalty. But that was an incredible penalty save, because it wasn't a bad penalty. It was a really, really important penalty save. And who knows what that penalty save could mean now going into the rest of the season. Because, if this is a point where we go, that's a really good point against a decent Charlton side. I'm not going to go out and say that it was an incredible Charlton performance, because I don't think it was. I don't think it was an incredible Charlton side. I don't think it was an incredible Charlton performance. I think we probably could have done better, and we probably could have got more out of the game. But at the end of the day, Charlton are a great side. They got relegated from the Championship. They got some great players, and to come away with a point, you sort of go, it's okay. We could have maybe got, maybe come out of this with maybe 3, but we take a point. The only other thing that I worry about is the points and the form we're currently on. Paul Grove says, I think Jamie Hansen did an amazing job at right back today. 100% Paul, and I think he's my man of the match. I don't know about you. Please do give your man of the matches, but I think my man of the match has to be Jamie Hansen. He came in at right back today, and I thought did a very, very, very good job. Really impressed with him. And it's quite a difficult game to come into, isn't it? It's a really, really difficult, just making sure the stream is okay there. Really, really, a difficult game to come into. Charlton are not a bad side. They're a really, really good side. And at the end of the day, you've got to be at your best if you're going to come in and, slot in at right back. And you've got to almost play as if you played there for the entire season. And he played like that today. I thought Jamie Hansen was absolutely fantastic. Tom says, didn't deserve to lose. Thankfully, Ipswich lost as well. Yeah, Ipswich did lose as well. Like I said, Ports have lost as well. And I think we are battling for 6th. I know a lot of people say, the playoffs is, there's 6 places. in that top 6, and 4 of them are playoff places. But I think we all know we're battling for 6. I don't think we're going to get any higher than that, and I think we've got to, bear that in mind. I don't think we're going to be getting higher than that. It is going to be a battle for that one playoff place, because the teams above that are running away with it, and the teams above that as well are doing very, very well. So, it is a little bit difficult in that sense, and, that is slightly frustrating for, 100%. But at the end of the day, there are results going our way. Having said that, we do need to go on and win some important games, and we do need to go on and win some really, really big games coming up. I'm talking Hull as well next week as well. Obviously, we've got Swindon as well coming up on Tuesday. So some really, really big games. We have to beat Swindon. I know a lot of people have this sort of mindset at the moment where no games are must win because of the games we've got coming, because the amount of games we've got coming up. You can, I don't necessarily disagree with that. But we do need to get points on the board, and it is important that points do start coming in, come from Oxford United, and are, eventually, getting added to our overall points position and taking us up the league table. This point today is massive, but at the same time, I do feel a little bit frustrated as to the fact that we couldn't get more of it. And, and it's a weird feeling, because you don't want to sound greedy, because we could have easily have lost that game, and I could be coming on here with a defeat. But I also don't want to sort of be that fan that goes, I want to be that fan that's very, very honest, and how I'm honestly feeling. And how I honestly feel right now is it could have been, it's a very frustrating feeling, because it's like we come away with this with a point, but at the same time, it could have been much worse, but then it could have been even better. It's like 3 different scenarios, and we've experienced all 3 scenarios. We've got that feeling of a win because we could have easily have won the game, and that Jack Stevens save in the last minute feels a little bit like a win, because it's such an important save. It's the last minute. The final whistle went as soon as he'd finished taking that, and it being saved. They didn't even take the corner that it went out for. So it was that sort of importance that anything really could come out of that save, and anything really could come out of this game, and you sort of feel you don't really know how it sort how that game sort of really feels to you. And each and every person that watches this and has watched that game will have their own feeling of how really sort of how they feel about the game. I sort of feel like part of me is a bit of a missed opportunity, but then at the other side of me is also thinking, it's a fantastic save, and it's a fantastic penalty save. It's so important, and who knows what that could mean. So it's really difficult if you know what I mean. Paul Grove says Hansen or Stevens for me, but probably Hansen. Yeah, I mean, it is difficult, isn't it? Because I think Hansen was great for 90 minutes, but that Stevens penalty save is an incredible save. And, that point is absolutely massive. And when all the players came running over to him and hugging him and all that sort of thing right at the end, that could be massive. And I keep saying it, but that save, no one knows. No one can predict the future. Nobody knows how good that save can be and how big that save will be, when as the season continues and how it goes on. Literally, that save could be the difference later down the line when we go. Can you imagine, go back and take yourself back to Charlton, in March, on March the 6th, and that penalty save there, we got in the playoffs because of that 1 or 2 points. And imagine if he'd scored that penalty and that Stevens penalty save stopped that, and we came away from that a point. So it is that sort of feeling, isn't it? However, we can't also sit here and talk about the negatives that are at Oxford United at the moment. And those negatives are that we are struggling to score goals and we're not hitting the back of the net. And that is a worrying thing. We've got a lot of injuries. We are in a lot of people are, I don't know how we're all feeling about that injury. I've been intrigued to see what you people think, but it's difficult, isn't it? Are we in an injury crisis? What is the situation? Where are we? What sort of situation are we in terms of, in terms of the injuries? We've got a lot of players out injured. Where do people stand on the injuries that we're all sort of undergoing at the moment? We've got a lot of players out, and who knows what those injuries could mean down the line. Because there's some very, very important players there. We're talking Elliot Lee, we're talking James Henry, we're talking Sam Long. Those are 3 important and crucial part of a squad that, we talk about wanting to go to the playoffs, and we talk about trying to go up, and we talk about this massive push for promotion. Those players are going to be integral if we're going to do that. So I really hope that, I know Elliot Lee's only out for a week, but, a week is, when people talk about, he's only out for a week, 2 weeks. In football, in League One right now, and in the amount of games that we play as a League One club, 1 to 2 weeks and a little bit more than that, that's 4 to 5 games you're missing. I know Elliot Lee should be only out for 1 game, so, he is out for 1 week, so But at the same time, when he's not playing today against Charlton, which is an extremely big game, and he's not playing against Swindon as well, which is also just a huge game. So it's difficult, isn't it? We talk about these players. At least they're not out. At least they're not out for a long time. But all these little injuries are massively a huge issue because these 1-2 week injuries, that's 4 or 5 games because the amount of injuries, the amount of games we have to play. So. I'm not complaining about the amount of games we have to play. I love Oxford United playing, and I love, I love the fact that we're winning. We're not winning. I love the fact that we're playing games, and I love the fact that we're able to watch football. But at the same time, the amount of games we are playing is difficult when you've got, players out injured, and the games that they are missing is difficult to take. And sometimes, and 9 times out of 10, I think, could be a huge reason why maybe this season doesn't go the way that we want it to go. Now, I'm not going to come on and sit here and say that I think promotion's over. I don't really want to do that. You have your own opinion on that. I'm not here to tell you how you feel about, the promotion and about the situation that we're on. You tell me in the comments. You tell me how you feel about it. It's difficult though, isn't it? Because we're not in great form. However, we've got games coming up where if we beat Swindon, which I think is a must-win game, because it's not just because of how big it is for the league, but also because it's Swindon Town. And we know what happened at the start of the season. It was an absolute disaster. We desperately need to come back and show that we're not a team that are going to get knocked over by our rivals. So these next few games are massive. So our playoffs over. Paul's given his thoughts. I think playoffs are still on, but we need to do much better than we have been recently. I think you're spot on, Paul. I think it's that same situation that a lot of people are in at the moment. I think Paul. I completely agree with you there. It's the same feeling of, I feel like. I believe, I hope that we can get the playoffs, but is it hope or belief? And there's a big difference between it. I also think at the moment, I actually hope we can score a goal, but I don't believe we're going to hit the back of the net. And that's the issue, isn't it? We're not scoring enough goals. If we score some goals and if we start putting the ball in the back of the net and we start being clinical in front of goal, Anthony Ford had a great opportunity today. I'm not going to moan and say the fact that he missed it because it was an absolutely fantastic strike. And if it had gone in, I think we'd have probably been candidate for one of the goals of the season. It was absolutely fantastic. Please do leave a like on the stream as well. We've got a few people watching right now. And it's difficult, isn't it? Because, when we talk about these games and when we talk about 0-0 draws, I think a lot of people can sometimes be a little bit sort of put off by it. And people don't really want to, I guess, a lot of the highlights, for example. People aren't going to watch the highlights of the game. People aren't going to, watch, a few people might not even watch the match reactions and match reviews of what other people are thinking of the game when it is 0-0, because it's quite, a lot of people do sort of see a 0-0 draw as a nothing result. And I think at times 0-0 draws can be a nothing result, but I think today feels different because it's one of those where that penalty changes everything. If I come on here at 0-0, I sort of expect to be quite disappointed. I probably would have felt really very, very, very disappointed. But now I also feel like I'm quite happy with the fact that at least at the end of the day there was a chance. I can come away from the game feeling like I was quite happy with the end of the game. There was something at the end of the game where I can come away from thinking that, like I keep saying, it could have been better. But at the end of the day, that penalty save sort of feels and makes it feel a little bit more than it is, if you know what I mean. So it's interesting. If you're new to the stream as well, new to the channel and your first time here in the stream, please do subscribe and leave a like. It means a lot. We've got lots of content coming your way as well. I did an England podcast episode yesterday, which gone down very, very well as well. So definitely go and check that out. I really, really enjoyed doing that because it's something a little bit different. It was it's something we haven't done in a while. We haven't sort of visited the England conversation for a few months. That was a really good episode. So please do check that out. In my opinion, it's a decent episode. Of course, that's for you to decide, but I think it was quite a decent one, if I don't say so myself. So please do check that out as well. We've got huge games coming up. We've got Hull as well. Now, I've also got to do a heads up as well. I don't know whether or not you're bothered or not, but on next Saturday, so exactly a week today, I won't be doing the match reaction here on this time. I don't know whether or not it will be actually the same day. I'm still sort of deciding. Well, not deciding. It really comes down to how long and really sort of what happens next Saturday. But I am going on the radio next Saturday, sort of with the podcast, if you like. So, there isn't going to be a match reaction here on the channel straight after the game, straight at full time like there normally is. However, I still will be trying to do a match reaction either that day or definitely the day after. It's a huge game against Hull City. They're a massive side. They're a great team this season. They've been great, and it's going to be a very, very difficult game. So, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Tom Owner said it's coming home, mate. I'm guessing you're talking about England there. Oxford United, Oxford United I don't think promotion's coming home just quite yet. But in terms of England, in terms of the Euro chances, is it coming home? Big discussion there. Please do go and check that video out, Tom. You've given me a nice little opportunity to promote that last episode of the podcast. Is it coming home? Very, very interesting. I'm not quite sure. Go and check that video out if you haven't already, though. That would be fantastic. And leave it a like, of course. Paul says hopefully Lee's back soon because he's been a key player since he's joined. Lee's been integral. I think Lee's been fantastic. Without Lee, we wouldn't have come into this game with a draw against MK Dons, and obviously, he got injured. It was against Peterborough, wasn't it, in the last game, so that's why he wasn't here today. But yeah, it's interesting, and Lee's a very, very important player, and I felt we did miss that spark. If you go and check the lineup out as well, we've got the lineup on the screen right now. It's very, very interesting. Tom Underwood says Andy Carroll leading us to glory. Funnily enough, Tommy, it didn't actually quite make it on the tier list. Quite harsh though, isn't it? Really, I think Andy Carroll pretty can offer us that aerial threat, and as much as you joke about Andy Carroll, it does lead us again nicely into sort of the next discussion for Oxford United, and that's the sense of where are our goals going to come from? Because we've got Winnow out injured, we've got Taylor that can't hit a barn door at the moment, we've got a lot of players really struggling in front of goal. Where are the goals going to come from? If we are going to get promoted, the goals have got to come from somewhere. We're not going to get promoted off 0-0 draws and 1-1, clutches in the last, in injury time. That isn't going to happen. You need to win games of football, and we went on that fantastic run. Doncaster stopped us, then we won again, didn't we, against another side, which I can't remember off the top of my head. And then obviously now, we're on a bit of a really, really dodgy patch. But saying that, we've got some difficult teams. Ipswich are a tough team. Peterborough, a very, very difficult team. They're top of the league. Again, Charlton tonight, they might not be having an incredible season, but they're still a great side. They're a championship club last season. No one's saying that Charlton are not a very, very good side. They weren't at their best today. That's why I'm a little bit frustrated, and part of me is frustrated, because I think we maybe could have won that game today, and I think we maybe could have given Charlton more of a game. Maybe not more of a game, but I think we could have given Charlton as much of a game that we could have gone on and beaten them, if you know what I mean. So it's difficult, isn't it? It's really, really difficult. And goals is a worry. We look at the front three on the screen. If you look to your left, you look at that front three. We're talking about Shadipo on the left. We're talking about Adji up front and Ford on the right. I thought Ford had a decent game today. I thought Ford could have scored. It was a great effort from him. But you look at that front three, where are those goals coming from the front three? I saw a lot of people talk about where the goals coming from in that team, and I know there's a statistic, isn't it, that actually a lot of our top goal scorers and the players that are getting the most goals are actually in that starting 11, because, think about it, Taylor in recent weeks hasn't been scoring and he wasn't there. But, you look in terms of that front three, you look at Adji, I think he's only scored one goal this season, or maybe two. I think it was two, didn't he? He got that goal against Rochdale. And he scored that worldie again against that. It was with Northampton. He scored that worldie. It might have been definitely at home on a Tuesday night, if I'm not wrong. Shadipo as well. I know he's got a few goals here and there, but Shadipo is a really, really strange one, because it's really it is quite strange, Shadipo, because it's like, at times, I really do think he can, he beats his man. And there's other times where I think, I really don't know what to think of Shadipo, because he sometimes actually looks like he doesn't really want to be on the pitch. I know that's a big thing to say, but at times he does. At times, honestly, I do generally think at times he doesn't look like he wants it as much as a few others. And then he'll go and do something unbelievable, like beat two men and go on, and put a ball into the box. In recent weeks, I think he's learned a lot as a footballer. We'll talk about last week against, was it Peterborough? No, it was MK Dons where he lost it, where I think he really, really struggled. He definitely didn't start against Peterborough. But again, I think today, we learned a lot. I think he will learn a lot. Not as much as he did against MK Dons, but I think he's really, really... I think I'm with Shadipo, he's a moments player. And I speak about it a lot with individual players, but he is a moments player. He can produce literal seconds of magic. He can, we can click our fingers and Shadipo will do something unbelievable. He'll do something spectacular. And then there's other times where I think you got to get him off. He's really, really struggling. He's not creating anything. He's not impacting the game. And that front three today is an interesting one, because in that front three, who is going to get us the goal? Who is going to go, who in that front three are those, in this case, Charlton defenders worried about? Which Charlton defender is going, we need to stop this player, because on his day and, in moments of seconds, he can create something different. And out of those front three, I think it's between Adji and Ford. Adji today, with that pace and that strength, is so, so helpful. Having said that, I think he's a player that really needs to move, really sort of relies a little bit on instinct. When he has too much time to think about something, I think he does really struggle. Because I think at time, there was a chance today, just an example, where he literally could have gone, I think it was right when there was no players, because all the Charlton defenders had moved out onto the left, but he just walked in. Well, he didn't walk. He ran into that crowd of players, and it got scrambled out. He sort of got, I guess, burnt out with the amount of players coming in to smother him, and the ball was cleared. So it's so difficult. Do give your man of the match is in the chat as well. Paul's already given his. I'd be interested to see. We've got 4 people right now. Please do leave a like if you haven't already. Leave a like on the stream. And, of course, subscribe as well if you're new. But give your man of the match, as always, because I'll be reading all of your thoughts out of the game. But it is interesting, and the starting lineup today was quite a strange one because I didn't really know how to feel about it. I sort of saw it and I was like, this could go this could go literally one of two ways. It could be a one where we go, this team's dead and it just is not creating anything. It just isn't helping the team out in any way, or it can come out as surprises and there's players in there that needed to take the opportunity today and then go on and impress me so much. I look at this team again. I'm talking Shadipo as well. He needed a big game. He needs to prove himself. Aji as well, left out the squad for quite a few weeks, and he didn't really know what was going to happen with Aji. And then he's getting this opportunity today. Huge game for him. He needed, it was massive for Aji because Aji doesn't take his chance today. Where does Aji stand in this squad? I don't think he didn't take his chance today. I thought he was very, very good. I think actually going forward, I think Aji is probably one of the most dangerous players because he's got that pace and he's got that strength and he's got that sort of weird balance in his play where it's like he's really, really quick. He's also quite strong as well, which is really, really strange. It's quite unusual. Normally in a player, you do sort of get that sort of, if you're absolutely, if you're rapid in pace, you're normally, because, you're a little bit, I guess, lighter, you're a little bit more nimble, and you can also, you can get shoved off the ball a little bit too easily sometimes. But with Aji, it's strange because I don't think it naturally at times, football comes to him. I don't want to sound horrible here, but I don't think naturally at times he looks like he knows exactly what he's doing. Like sometimes he does turn very slow, sometimes he turns and it doesn't it doesn't really work when he turns at times. But then also at times where he runs with the ball and he just sort of like goes and you're like, Aji, just do something and whatever happens, just run at them because they don't know what to do. Because he's got that pace, he's got that strength. So it's interesting. I am sort of still a little bit undecisive on Aji because it's like I don't really know what's going on. But, he has been helpful this season. I do like Aji. I think he does offer more than a lot of our attackers that we've got. Or not a lot of them, but some of them, I think. Again, looking at starting lineup again, we obviously had to go with Kelly coming back into that starting 11 as well, which is interesting because... Yeah, well, the Kelly thing is quite interesting because I don't really know sort of how we sort of feel about Kelly at times. I think Kelly's work rate's incredible, but when he comes into that team, he doesn't. This season, I don't think he's been unbelievable, but at the same time, I think he's been very, very good at pressing. I think he's been he's a really, really good presser. He works really, really hard, and I think at times as fans, you do sort of look at players and you go, he works really hard. And that's what I love about him. And that's what I do like about Kelly. He works extremely, extremely hard. He presses. And there's ever a player where I go, he's going to give us 110%. It's definitely going to be Liam Kelly. And that's what I love about Liam Kelly. Again, Brannigan today, don't think he had his best game. I don't think he was pretty poor. I thought he was, pretty average from Cameron Brannigan today. Nothing incredible. Goran as well got quite lucky at the end. Obviously, that penalty was saved by Jack Stevens. But at the same time, I think I don't think it was Goran's best day anyway, to be honest. I think he was a little bit sloppy at times during the game. I don't think he was extremely poor. And I think that penalty at the end, obviously the attacker's going to make the most of it. It's a penalty in the 90th minute. You can do anything to win it. Thankfully it was saved by Stevens. But at the end of the day, I don't think Goran had an incredible performance. I don't think Goran really can come away from this thinking that he had a great day. Take that penalty away from it. I don't generally think it was sort of that classic Goran performance where you can rely on Goran. You could believe that Goran's going to win the ball. You could believe that Goran's going to give you a great pass. I thought at times he was a little bit sloppy, but at the end of the day, I don't think I'm too worried about that. I was quite impressed with Goran generally, as the game goes. Again, I'm looking at other players in there as well. Jamie Hansen, like we've already mentioned, he's come in and done a really good job as well. Atkinson had a pretty good game, win a lot of balls into the air, Moore as well, doing the same sort of thing. Stevens already spoken about so many times how incredible he was as well. Josh Ruffles, again, got a little bit of an injury scare at one point, but thankfully that shoulder held up okay and he was fine. And again, we've spoken about everyone else. So that's where I'm probably going to leave it today because I don't think we can sort of go too much more into detail. It's a 0-0 draw, but it's one where it could have really gone either way. It really could have gone either way. And I know, and I'm happy that we can come away from this actually having a real talking point, and we can come away with this actually sort of feeling like we have got something out of this game. Even if the penalty save, take that away from it, we would have come out of this 0-0 if that penalty save didn't even happen, and we would have come away from this with a point. But at the same time, I do feel much happier that we come away with a point, and I do sort of feel like it could have been. You think what it could have been if that wasn't saved? It could have been none. and I think we take that, and I think we're quite happy with it. Anyway, people, thank you very much to everyone that's come in. I've actually been quite impressed with the amount of people that we've got in today. Obviously, it is a 0-0 draw. I understand it's not the most attractive scoreline for people coming in and listening to people talk about it, but I also do think Stevens to the rescue is definitely the way to go, and I thought live last-minute penalty save, very, very important. And who knows, like I said, what a penalty save can mean pretty much to this season. Anyway, thank you very much everyone that's tuned in. Please do leave a like if you haven't already. If you're new, like I said, please do subscribe. We've got lots of different content coming your way as well. Swindon, massive game, Derby Day on Tuesday. I actually might do a video. I might do a podcast episode where we go more into detail about that Swindon game, because I think that could be huge. As always, obviously it's a huge game, and obviously we've got a big game against Hull as well. Like I said, we won't be covering the whole game straight after kickoff, because I am going on BBC Radio Oxford. So if you would like to come in and tune in on BBC Radio Oxford next Saturday after the whole game, switch on your radio, switch on to BBC Radio Oxford. I'll be on there talking about the game, talking about the podcast as well. So I'm really, really excited about that, and hopefully it goes down pretty well. Anyway, people, thank you very much. Like I said, there's been tuning in. I've been Jack. This has been the Unfan Podcast. This has been a match reaction for Oxford United's 0-0 draw against Charlton, and I'll see you in a bit.